You tell everyone your plan, and that is exactly why you keep losing. Every single time you share your next move, you hand someone a weapon. You don't see it happen. You call it honesty. You call it being open, building trust. But watch what happens next. Someone uses that information against you. Someone gets there first. Someone smiles to your face at dinner, then undermines you the moment you leave the room. This isn't bad luck. It's not a coincidence. This is the predictable result of information asymmetry, working against you instead of for you. Machiavelli watched Italian courts devour honest men for 500 years, and he left us one brutal observation. The fox who reveals his den gets hunted by the wolves watching from the tree line. You are that fox with an open den. Every plan you announce, every dream you share at dinner, every strategy you post online for validation, you are handing hyenas a map straight to your throat and calling it connection. Ask yourself this question: why do you keep doing it, even after it costs you? The answer is shame. You think silence looks suspicious. You think secrecy looks cold, calculated, unkind. So you overshare to prove you are trustworthy, likable, safe to be around. This is the strategic error at the center of all your losses. Weakness disguised as virtue. Exposure disguised as intimacy. Machiavelli never called silence dishonest. He called it survival, the same way a soldier calls cover survival. The prince who tells his enemies exactly where he will strike deserves exactly what comes next, and so do you. Here is the brutal truth, and I want you to sit with it. Your openness is not a moral strength. It is an unguarded flank on a battlefield you refuse to admit you are standing on, and today, you learn to close it. By the end of this video, you will master 7 principles of strategic silence. You'll learn why revealing too soon kills your leverage before it ever forms. How covert contracts are silently controlling every relationship in your life right now. You'll learn the shadow work that turns exposure into armor and information control that turns weakness into a deadly weapon. Stay until the very end, because the final principle is the one most men never discover until it is far too late to use it. A vault does not explain itself. It does not apologize for being locked or justify its silence to the people standing outside. It simply holds what matters and lets the world guess at the contents. But you are not a vault. You are a diary left open on a train seat, and every colleague, every friend, every rival reads you before you even finish your sentence. This isn't friendliness. This is exposure dressed up as warmth. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by the eye more than the hand, and what the eye cannot see, it cannot destroy, cannot copy, cannot sabotage. So close your mouth before you close a deal. Say absolutely nothing about the promotion you are chasing until the offer is signed and sealed. Say nothing about the person you are leaving until the exit is fully planned and funded. Say nothing about the business you are building until it can survive a single leak. The wolf that howls before it strikes loses the kill to a faster, quieter predator. Silence is not coldness. Silence is armor plating around the parts of you that are still under construction. Think about the last time you announced a goal before you had done any real work toward it. Remember the polite nods, the soft congratulations, the quiet comparison happening behind those smiles. That applause did not fuel you, it drained you. Talking about the goal released the same reward chemical as achieving it, and your brain quietly stopped pushing the moment it felt finished. This isn't superstition. This is basic behavioral psychology, weaponized against people who talk before they build. Machiavelli's princes never held press conferences before a siege. They moved troops in total silence, and the announcement was the victory itself, not the plan. Build your vault. Fill it. Lock it. Let the results speak once, loudly, instead of your intentions speaking 100 times to an audience that was never rooting for you as hard as you believed. Stay with me, because the next principle explains exactly why your closest friends already know how to hurt you the most. You give without asking for anything in return. You help without ever stating your terms out loud, and secretly, quietly, you expect something back anyway. This is a covert contract, an invisible ledger nobody signed, but everyone still feels in their gut. When it goes unpaid, resentment grows like rot beneath the floorboards of a relationship, invisible until the whole structure collapses under weight nobody accounted for. Machiavelli understood debt as leverage long before modern psychology gave it a name. He wrote that men forget the death of a father faster than they forget the loss of an inheritance. Translate that into your life. People remember what you owe them far longer than they remember what you gave them freely. So, stop making silent deals with people who never agreed to the terms. State your expectations plainly, even if only to yourself first. Know exactly what you expect before you extend a single favor. The lion does not hunt on hope, and it does not hunt on unspoken assumptions. The lion hunts on calculation, on certainty, on terms it understands before it ever moves. Look around your own life for a moment. That relative who helped you move apartments 3 years ago and still brings it up at every single holiday dinner. That colleague who covered 1 shift for you and now expects you to cover 5. These are covert contracts collecting interest, and you agreed to none of the terms because nobody stated them out loud. The fix is not coldness. The fix is absolute clarity. When you help someone, decide in your own mind whether it is a gift with no strings or a transaction with an expectation. And know the difference before resentment builds a case file against them in your head. Machiavelli's entire philosophy of favors rested on this same clarity. Give strategically or give freely, but never give blindly and call it generosity when it was actually an unspoken invoice. Count to 3 and watch what happens the moment you finally say out loud what you actually want. You have a shadow, the ruthless, calculating part of you that you keep locked in the basement because it ophthalmically embarrasses you at dinner parties, at family gatherings, in front of people who prefer the version of you that never says no. Carl Jung called it the shadow. Machiavelli simply called it necessary and refused to apologize for it. He wrote that a man who wishes to profess goodness in all things will come to ruin among so many who are not good. Your shadow is not evil. It is simply unused muscle, atrophied from years of forced niceness. Integration does not mean becoming cruel or vindictive. It means acknowledging the part of you that is fully capable of strategy, capable of boundaries, capable of walking away without ever explaining why. Stop performing pleasantness at the direct cost of your own interests. Name the ruthless option in your own mind, even when you ultimately choose the kinder path. Awareness of your shadow is armor. Denial of it is the exact exposure that gets you exploited by people who integrated theirs a long time ago. Picture the version of you that says no without a paragraph of justification attached. Picture the version of you that ends a conversation the moment it stops serving you, without guilt trailing behind like a wounded animal. That version already exists inside you right now. You simply exiled it years ago because someone once called you cold, or selfish, or difficult, and the label stuck harder than the truth ever could. Reclaiming that exiled part is not a moral failure. It is closing a gap your rivals have been exploiting for years, quietly, patiently, the same way a wolf waits outside a den it knows will eventually open. The next principle is the one that separates prey from predator in every room you walk into. Do not look away now. In every negotiation, every relationship, every workplace, someone knows more than the other person. That gap isn't unfair. That gap is the entire game, whether you agreed to play it or not. Machiavelli's princes survived 5 centuries of assassination attempts because they knew their enemy's next move before the enemy even finished thinking it through. You lose this game every single time you post your plans, your income, your next career step, your relationship status for public commentary and cheap validation. Foxes do not announce the hunt before it begins. Foxes disappear entirely and reappear only with the kill already in their jaws. Withhold your timeline from people who have not earned it. Withhold your budget from people who only want to compare themselves to you. Withhold your next 3 moves from anyone who has not proven they deserve to know them. Ask yourself this question honestly. Who actually needs this information to help you, and who is simply curious enough to use it against you later? Consider your own social feed for a moment. Every location tag, every job update, every relationship milestone is a data point handed freely to people who have done nothing to earn access to your life. Some of them are allies, but many of them are simply spectators, keeping score, waiting for you to stumble so the comparison finally tilts in their favor. Machiavelli ruled in an era without cameras or feeds, yet he understood the exact mechanism at play. Visibility without control is vulnerability wearing a costume. Audit what you reveal the same way a general audits supply lines before a campaign, not out of paranoia, but out of pure discipline. Stay close, because the next principle exposes the exact moment people betray you and why you never see it coming until it is already done. People believe what is convenient for them, not what is objectively true. This is cognitive dissonance, and it actively protects the people who hurt you from ever feeling the weight of it. They tell themselves a story where you deserved the betrayal, where they remain the hero of their own narrative, no matter what they did to you. Machiavelli knew this cold, and he never pretended otherwise. He wrote that men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that a deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived. Your job is not to convince them otherwise, because that argument cannot be won with logic alone. Your job is to stop feeding them material for their story. Keep your reactions completely unreadable in the moments that matter most. Do not confirm their narrative with visible anger, visible hurt, or visible desperation to be understood. The hyena feeds on your reaction, on your explanation, on your emotional evidence. Starve it, and watch how quickly the story falls apart without your help. Notice how the people who wronged you always seem to sleep perfectly fine at night, while you replay the moment on a loop, searching for the sentence that would have made them understand. That search is the trap. They are not losing sleep because their story already excuses them completely. Your energy belongs elsewhere, invested in your own next move, not in the impossible task of rewriting a narrative someone else has already finished writing in their own favor. Let the unreadable face do the work your words never could. Only 2 principles remain, and the next one will change how you approach every single conversation you have from this point forward. Silence unnerves people who expect a reaction from you. Watch any negotiation closely. The first person to fill the silence with words usually loses ground they can never fully recover. Machiavelli advised princes to let fear and respect do the talking, not endless justification, not desperate explanation, not pleading for understanding. Stop explaining yourself to people who are simply waiting for their turn to argue. State your position once, clearly, without apology, then stop completely. Let the discomfort of silence pressure them instead of you. The lion does not roar to convince the gazelle of anything. The lion simply waits, patient and certain, while the gazelle talks itself into exhaustion. Practice this in low-stakes rooms first. A meeting where someone challenges a small point. A family dinner where someone baits you toward an argument you do not need to win. Say your piece once. Let the silence that follows feel heavy, uncomfortable, unfinished to everyone but you. Most people cannot tolerate that discomfort for more than a few seconds before they start negotiating against themselves. Offering concessions nobody asked for, simply to end the silence. Let them. That silence is not empty. It is loaded. One principle left, and this is the one that turns everything you just learned into a permanent shift in how people treat you for the rest of your life. There is a moment for disclosure. Silence without an eventual truth becomes isolation, not strategy, and isolation is not the goal here. The sovereign reveal happens entirely on your terms, after the plan is secure, after the leverage is fully locked in place, after the outcome cannot be stolen from you by anyone watching. Machiavelli's princes did not hide forever behind castle walls. They struck decisively, and only then did they show their hand, because by that point the war was already won and the outcome was no longer in question. Reveal your plans after they succeed, never while they are still forming and fragile. Announce the promotion after you already have it in writing. Share the relationship after it has proven stable under pressure. Tell the story after the ending is already written and cannot be rewritten by someone else's version of events. This isn't deception, this is timing, and timing is the entire difference between a fox that survives the winter and a corpse left for the crows. Think of the sovereign reveal like a surgeon closing an operation. Nobody wants a live narration of the procedure while the patient is still open on the table. They want the surgeon silent, focused, precise, and then, only once the patient is stable, the full explanation arrives, calm and complete. Apply that same discipline to your own ambitions. Operate in silence, explain in triumph. Here is what happens if you ignore everything you just heard today. You keep leaking your strategy to people who never earned the right to hear it. You keep funding your rivals with your own openness, one overshare at a time. You keep mistaking exposure for connection, and you keep losing ground to people less capable than you, simply because they understood how to stay quiet, and you did not learn it in time. But here is the month's transformation waiting on the other side of this decision. 7 principles now belong to you. Vault discipline, covert contract awareness, shadow integration, information control, emotional unreadability, strategic silence under pressure, and sovereign timing on every reveal. Master these 7. And you stop bleeding advantage to people who never earned it in the first place. You start moving through the world the way Machiavelli's princes moved through their own courts. Unreadable right up until the exact moment they chose to be seen. Picture yourself 6 months from now, having actually applied these 7 principles instead of simply nodding along and closing the tab. Picture the people who used to read you like an open book, now standing confused, recalculating, no longer certain what your next move will be. That confusion is not cruelty. That confusion is respect, earned the hard way, through discipline instead of demands. This is the version of you that Machiavelli was actually writing for. Not a tyrant, not a manipulator, but a strategist who refuses to bleed advantage over social niceties that were never reciprocated in the first place. Ask yourself this question one final time. How much have you already lost by talking too soon, too often to the wrong people? Subscribe now if you are finally done funding your enemies with your own mouth. This channel exists for people who are tired of losing quietly and are finally ready to win the same way. Quietly and on their own terms. Write iron silence below if you are done explaining yourself to people who never deserved the explanation in the first place. Let that comment be the first calculated move in a plan nobody sees coming until it is already finished.